I said to myself, I need to find a way to create a product that makes it easy for patients to write reviews for dentists. And that's what I strived to accomplish. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raving Patients Podcast. As you know, I'm your host, Dr. Len Tao, and today is going to be a little bit of a different type of episode. The guest is myself. I haven't been the only guest since the very, very first episode back in 2018, but I've been asked countless times to tell my story, so this episode is titled The Origin Story of the Reviews Doctor. So stay tuned for a ton of information about me and where I've kind of taken my career over the past 23 years as a dentist. I want to thank the sponsors first and foremost. So I want to thank Dental Intelligence, the Doc Sites, and Cloud Dentistry for their support. And for those that are interested, we had just launched the registration for my first live event that I've put on. It's September 29th and 30th, 2023 in Delray Beach, Florida. It's called Supercharge Your Dental Practice. It's a live event with 17 speakers, 14 CE credits, 23 sponsors, 200 plus dentists. So check out superchargeyourdentalpractice.com to find out more information. And if you're interested in registering, there are some super early bird specials, and you can get an additional $100 off by entering the code RAVING, RAVING. We'll give you an additional $100 off the cost of registering for just listening to this podcast. So check out superchargeyourdentalpractice.com. So let's get into the episode. So this is the first episode of 2023. I'm actually recording it December 20th, 2022. So I want to wish everyone a happy new year, as this will be one of the first things you listen to in the new year. So happy new year to everyone. Secondly, on December 6th and 7th were my last 2 clinical work days. So I have officially retired from clinical dentistry. I am no longer a practicing dentist, but I am going to be very involved in the dental space and helping dentists grow their businesses. So I finally decided to end the clinical aspect of my career. I'm looking forward to the next, what I like to say, 23 years of my life, as I spent 23 years as a clinical dentist. So let's hop into my story. I graduated Tufts Dental School in 1999. I did a residency program in Southern Jersey at what is now Rutgers. It was an AEGD. I did clinical dentistry. And I settled in the Philadelphia area because of that. I never made it back to New York, where I was from, which was the original plan from the get-go. And what was very interesting, I matched, as you know, we matched for residency, and I matched down in Southern Jersey. I thought I was going to match in Connecticut and stay in that part of the country, going from Boston to Connecticut. But there was a clerical error, and I was left off the match list, and I couldn't break the match. So I ended up going to my second choice in Southern Jersey, and that's how I ended up in the Pennsylvania area to this day. That's how it happened. I ended up meeting my soon-to-be wife, my first wife. I started working in her hometown of Lansdale, Pennsylvania, for a practice called Upper Gwinnett Dental Arts as the associate. I ended up getting divorced. My ex-wife thought I would leave the Pennsylvania area, but I never did. I met another woman from Newtown, Pennsylvania, my current wife, Rissa, and we settled in Philadelphia, and then I ended up buying a practice soon after I was married. That was 2007. So in 2007, I purchased a practice, the Pennsylvania Center for Dental Excellence, from a dentist who unfortunately had committed suicide. It was a very well-known practice. He did a lot of advertising, a lot of traditional marketing he did. He was very ahead of the times. And I thought it was the perfect practice for me to grow into my next stage. The dentist was gone. I bought the practice from the estate. Luckily, the team decided to stay with me, so every team member remained. And I purchased the practice. When I bought the practice, I also bought the building. And I ended up deciding, in order to make it my own, I would gut the building. So we took everything down, and we basically built a brand new practice inside, all brand new equipments. Beautiful. It was at that point, it was state of the art. And it really made me believe I was living the practice of my dreams, or I had the practice of my dreams. one issue was I was $18,000 in debt every month, which was a big nut to crack. I decided to be very, very, focused on getting out of debt in 7 years. So I accelerated, obviously, my loan payments, and they were thus higher rather than going for 10 years and lowering the payments. So before I even opened my door every month, I was $18,000 in debt. And I needed to learn how to basically bring more patients into the practice. That was the main goal of what I was doing. I had reached out to a lot of the gurus in the industry, and they wanted me to do a lot of traditional marketing. So what did that include? Billboards, yellow page advertising, direct mail, newspaper, magazines, radio, those types of things. And I did. I did that, and it was okay. I didn't see any terrific results. Probably the best investments I made was having an ad in the Philadelphia magazine. I was one of the very first businesses to track the phone number to see what calls we were getting from Philadelphia magazine. And I was able to prove to them over a couple year period that it was very effective. And then it got stale and the number of calls each month went down. So I was able to prove to them it wasn't working anymore for me. But I did Philadelphia magazine. I also did a radio advertisement, on a radio, spot, that cost me $18,000 for the year. And I literally got no patients from it. It was a complete waste of money. I knew that my place was not traditional marketing. It was digital marketing. I was always interested in the internet. I was always on the internet, and I knew the internet was the way to go. So I learned how to really market my practice online. So I learned a lot of SEO techniques. I obviously learned about online reviews, paid advertising, and I reached out to industry leaders to help them help me grow my practice online, and it worked like a charm. In 2007, 8, and 9, there were somewhat of a struggle. I sort of little incremental increases in my revenue, nothing to write home about. And it wasn't until 2010 when my online marketing really took off. And that's when my practice started taking off. One of the interesting things we did was, I was the very first dentist in Philadelphia to offer a Groupon deal. And back then it was like for a whitening procedure, it was a discount on Invisalign and veneers. And then it was a new patient exam and cleaning. And we ended up bringing close to 500 new patients into the practice. And that was a huge boon to the practice. The practice did really, really well from that influx of 500 new patients. Not all of them stayed. But one of the things it did, it forced me into creating a membership program in the office. It forced me to create something called the Oral Health Savings Plan, which to this day still exists in the practice. And it was $295 for a 1 year, loyalty to the office. It got them 2 exams, 2 cleanings, a discount on all the treatments they had received. And it was really great at keeping these patients who did not have dental insurance into the practice. The practice I had purchased was fee for service, so many patients did not have insurance. So that to this day still exists, and it's still very profitable for the practice. And since then, all of these other membership programs obviously have come out. Clear, Boom Cloud, the list goes on and on. But I was a self-managed plan for very many, many years. But it was brought on by the fact that I needed to keep these patients in my practice. From 2010 to 2011, my practice grew almost 100% from doing about, 700, almost $900,000. We did 1.8 in 2010. We did almost $2 million in 2011. And then in 2012, we did 2.4 million. When I bought the practice in 2007, it was doing $1.2 million. It was myself. I was working full time. It was one hygienist or 1.5 hygienists. It was two dental assistants and 1 front desk person. So it was a very small team. My overhead was very low. I was making lots of money. I had the practice of my dreams, but I wasn't living the life of my dreams. I was not home enough. I was in the office running the business side of the practice all the time. I was doing more than that than actual dentistry, in my opinion. We only worked about 25 clinical hours a week, but I was in the office far more than that running the business side. And what you don't realize is a business owner is all those other things that make it very difficult to kind of find time to do things. I wanted to do it myself. I wanted to learn the business. So I learned how to use Dentrix. I called countless insurance companies to learn about insurances. I learned every aspect of the business. So if I ever needed to have no employees for whatever reason, I can run the business. If I have enough hands, I could have run the business myself. I obviously needed people to do things for me, but that's how I learned to run the business. I paid my bills, so I knew what my overhead was. I knew that the only way you can really make more money, there's two ways. And the two ways are to be more profitable is to decrease your expenses, which is very difficult, or to increase the production, increase the number of dentistry you're doing. And that's what I did. I had very low overhead. But I also increased the number of dentistry I did, or the amount of dentistry I did. And I was extremely, extremely productive, and my practice was making lots of money. And you would think I would be happy, but I wasn't. I was stressed out. I was burning out, basically. The marketing I was doing was really bringing in a lot of patients to the practice. And we were getting close to 100 new patients a month in a fee-for-service practice, which is unheard of nowadays. I got the attention of a local dentist by the name of Joseph Greenberg. He was a prosthodontist, a cosmetic dentist in Villanova, Pennsylvania. I met him at the American Academy of Aesthetic Dentistry meeting in Boston. And we started communicating, and he was really intrigued by the marketing I was doing. So he asked me to come and speak to his study club, a local study club, probably 25 doctors. And I was an unknown person at this point. And he asked me to come in and speak, and I did. And I've never had the rush after finishing the presentation. I never had experienced that before, of getting in front of my colleagues, teaching them and telling about things that they have never seen before, and finishing that and thinking that I was the greatest thing in the world. I had a feeling that I was wanted to speak more and teach dentists more about what I was able to accomplish in my own practice. And that was in September of 2010. And now here we are almost 13 years later, and I've given over 450 presentations to dentists and teams all over the country, internationally. It's pretty amazing to me. And I was not a good speaker. I had to learn how to speak. I was never a public speaker. I got very nervous in front of people, but I seemed to really embrace this. At the same time, while I was giving these seminars, and my seminars were mostly at that point in New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Delaware, they were really isolated to the Northeast. And, but I would get calls from dentists afterwards, or even during the seminar. I still remember a dentist in Ardmore, Pennsylvania, calling me during one of my seminars and saying, "Hey, dude, you're amazing. I need your help." And I really had no interest in helping anybody. I was really focused on growing my practice, paying off my debt. But after enough people had asked me, to help them, I felt there was a need in the industry, and I created a consulting company called iSocial Dental Consulting. And overnight, I reached out to the clients or the dentists who had asked for my assistance. And over the course of the next 5 years, I was helping about 65 practices create compelling marketing, strategic marketing I was doing for them. So I wasn't doing the marketing, but I was making recommendations on what they should do to grow their practice. But I didn't love the consulting model. It required me to spend a lot of time with the practice. I was on calls with them. I even flew out or drove out to practices all around. And I never enjoyed that model. So I needed to come up with something else to make more money, because guys, I at this point did not want to be a dentist for the rest of my life. I was getting burnt out. I was getting very stressed. I did not enjoy every aspect of dentistry that you would be at a very fairly young age. So I knew I needed to find another outlet. One of the biggest things I realized while I was in practice was how important online reviews was for me to be successful. One of my jobs in my practice was to discuss with patients when they came in how they found out about my practice. And it's countless times people said, "Well, I read your online reviews." And this is back in like 2010, 11, and 12, when online reviews were not what they were today. But so many patients mentioned that they chose my office because of my online reviews. And I want to take a step back here when it comes to online reviews, because in the very, very beginning, I was using a product called Demand Force. Demand Force, for those that are unaware, is a practice communication software, a patient communication software that will remind patients about their appointments. It will send campaigns. It will do recare announcements, those types of things. It was communicating with the patients. And one of the things they did back then was they ended up taking the reviews that were generating, and because of a relationship they had with Google, those reviews would end up on your Google My Business page. It was called Google Local back then. And overnight, you would see proliferating offices with thousands of reviews. On the same note, and I realized how important it was, so I started getting reviews on my own. So asking patients to write reviews, having them sit down in the office to write a review on Google, which you can't do nowadays, but back then you could. And it was amazing. I had about 30 reviews at the time. And overnight, demand for us lost the relationship they had with Google. Google ended the relationship with every third party. That was Yelp. That was Demand Force. You name it. Those companies could not have their reviews on Google anymore. Google became its own review product, basically. And overnight, dentists with thousands of reviews went to zero, and they had nothing. And I still had about 30 of them, and I went from probably 600 to about 30. But those 30 were more than anybody else. And that's really where I saw the benefit of online reviews. And I said to myself, I need to find a way to create a product that makes it easy for patients to write reviews for dentists. And that's what I strived to accomplish. I had tried so many different platforms and so many ways to generate reviews, but none of them were very good. They were all just hard to do. Took countless times with the patients to do it. The customer service wasn't very good. So I decided to go out there and create a product. So it was myself, two other guys, and some engineers, and we created a product called iSocial Reviews. And it was a very, very easy way to send manual requests to patients to write reviews. So there was no automation at all. We didn't integrate into the practice management software. If somebody wanted to send a review request, they can either log onto a website or they can use a Chromebook and send a review request out to a patient. The patient would get a text message, and if they wanted to follow through on their phone, they could do it. So it was a very basic software, but it was a really needed platform in the industry. So I was one of the very first companies out there specifically dealing with the reviews, targeting the dental profession. Launched the product at the Yankee Dental meeting in 2013. So we're talking about, almost 9 years ago at this point. And I still remember I went to my very first event. I called them up on the phone, told them I had no money. I needed remnant space to promote my product. I was all the way in the back. If anybody goes to Yankee Dental, it's kind of where the flea market is, where they sell the bamboo sheets, and the vacuum cleaners and the knives and those types of things. I was in that area basically. And, I sold my software to 9 people. 9 offices purchased my software that day. And I told myself I was able to prove the concept. Over the next year and a half, I continued going to trade shows, usually maybe once every 2 months. So I ended up going to Chicago Midwinter. Then I went to the AACD meeting in Orlando. And this was all in 2013. And over the course of 18 months, I sold 180 dentists my software. I was doing very well. I was doing all the onboarding myself. I was very much the face of the business. And really, other than the engineer, there was nobody else involved in the day-to-day operations. And then I wrote an article for Dentaltown called Yelp Can Be Detrimental to Your Business. So it was all about Yelp. It was all about the things they were doing to hurt dental practices. And it got the ear and the eye of Bird Eye. Bird Eye saw the article and reached out to me and said, hey, we're a competitor of yours. We have about 20 dental clients, but we're looking to grow to $1 billion company. Would you be interested in joining us? And at first I was like, no, thanks. I'm not interested in that. And about 6 months later, I realized I was not able to really grow my business because I was still focused on the practice of dentistry. And I decided that in my best interest, it was to sell a product, not engineer a product. And in September of 2014, Bird Eye acquired my company, my IP, my revenue, my clients, everything. And I joined their team as a consultant, basically. They didn't realize how strong I was at selling. And they brought me full time into Bird Eye as the head of the dental division 2 years later. So that was 2016 when I joined them full time. But they kept a lot of my ideas when it came to the online reviews. They kept my green and red button, which is the current version of the software. They used the term feedback instead of reviews. I also coined the term reputation marketing before it had been reputation management. Reputation management is basically taking negative reviews off the first page of Google. Reputation marketing was designed to generate 5-star reviews from your business and market it to get more business. That's what the term reputation marketing kind of was born, rather than reputation management. I still say to this day that if you see companies advertising reputation management, that is such an old term, you shouldn't be using those companies. But it was in 2014, Bird Eye bought me, and I've been with them for close to just over 8 years now. It's been a great relationship. They've really helped me grow me personally and professionally. They've helped me interact with thousands of dentists. So I've spoken at so many meetings because of what they've been able to do for me. So I give a lot of credit to the team at Bird Eye, Neeraj and Naveen Gupta, the COO and co-founders of the company. Dave Lehman is the current COO and president of the company. But I owe them a lot of gratitude and a lot of thankfulness that they were able to really change my life, I would say. I would never have imagined that, they mentioned the $1 billion company, and I would never have imagined us achieving that. But, we hope to go public in a couple of years, and that really has allowed me to step away from the dental industry. So in 2017, I finally was traveling enough around the country that I brought in an associate into my practice, and I started working 2 days a week. So up to that point, I was working full time, 3.5 days, working on the business another 20 hours, so about 45 hours a week, running the business and the practice, and doing the dentistry, managing the team, managing the patients. And I knew I needed to kind of step away. I was getting very frustrated and disenchanted by the dental industry. But I brought the associate in. She worked Wednesdays and Thursdays. I worked Mondays and Tuesdays. And I was able to obviously find more time to travel, to speak at meetings, to go to trade shows and sell the software. In 2020, when COVID hit, my associate decided to leave. And that's when I had the inkling that I wanted to sell the practice. I had hoped to sell it before she left, but unfortunately, because of COVID, she ended up leaving in June of 2020. And in August of 2020, I hired the new associate, Dr. Christine Hahn. She came in. What was really interesting was I put the practice up for sale in January of 2020, with the intention of trying to sell before my associate had left. The very first person to look at the practice was Dr. Christine Hahn and her friend, who were interested in teaming up and becoming co-owners of the practice. Unfortunately, COVID hit, ended up squashing the sale of the practice. And then Christine and her friend decided to not buy a practice. But Christine had just moved up to Philadelphia from Virginia, where she was practicing, and needed to be an associate. So she joined me as an associate in 2020. I also became very disenchanted with the cold weather. And we decided, and I say we, my wife and I decided that we wanted to change in our lives. So in October of 2020, my wife, my son, my mother-in-law, and myself sold our Philadelphia, or my Bluebell home, and moved to Florida. And we currently live in Parkland, Florida. We've been here just over 2 years. We absolutely love it. Very different lifestyle, beautiful weather all year round. It's 75 degrees here right now as I record this. Nice and sunny outside. We were never cold people, and we just became very disenchanted with the cold while we were up there, stuck inside during COVID months. Again, the practice was for sale, but I hadn't sold it yet. And I put it back on the market, after COVID, and really never found the right buyer. I was not a great candidate for a DSO because I wasn't staying on for 3 or 4 years. I needed a private sale, and I had a number of people come look at the practice, but there was nothing bubbling up at all. And in June of 2021, Dr. Christine Hahn who was my associate, decided to make an offer to buy the practice, which I 100% accepted on the spot. And she took over the practice in October of 2021. So October of 2021, I sold my practice. And I moved in October of 2020. So for almost a full year went by where I was still commuting up almost every single week from Florida to Philadelphia. So like a 2.5 hour plane ride, Mondays and Tuesdays working in the practice. When she bought the practice in October of 2021, I still worked the same schedule. She actually had a child, a new child in March of 2022. And I basically helped cover her while she was on maternity leave. After she came back from maternity, I started slowing down even further, and I was going from working every week to every other week. And then in June of 2022, I decided to work once a month. And then we decided in October that I would hang up my clinical career in December of 2022, which obviously just took place. So it's been a great run for me. I've loved my time as a dentist, 23 years total. I've had a lot of ups and downs. I've had lots of positive reviews, almost 2,000 of them, some negative reviews, 93 of them, I think, to date. But I've really learned a lot from the various stages of my career, and I'm really excited for the next stage to commence. And I always say, this is not the beginning. It's not the end. This is not the end of the beginning of the end. It's the end of the beginning. And I look forward to my next status in the dental industry. I'm not going anywhere. I love working with practices, and I really appreciate everybody's notices to me as I announced the retirement on LinkedIn and various other social media channels. I appreciate what what I've given to people in the industry. I know they've appreciated it as well. And I'm excited about the next chapter of my life. So hopefully that kind of gave you, an overview of how I got into the industry. I've worked incredibly hard. I have never been given anything in my life except my education. I was lucky enough to have my parents pay for my college education at Tulane and my dental school education at Tufts. That's the only thing I was given. I started working at the age of 13. I was a baseball card. I used to sell baseball cards. It was called Lenny's Lineup. I was making $60,000 a year at 13 years old. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always been a hard worker, and it paid off in the long run. Where here we are in 2022. I'm 49 years old. I've now, like I said, completely retired from clinical dentistry, and I have moved on to another career. I hope what I told you is inspiring. I hope what I told you is encouraging, that there is a way out if you don't enjoy what you're doing. And it's not, I want to make it very clear. I did not enjoy it. I really loved dentistry. I became passionate about other things, and those passions really kind of pushed me in a different direction. But I could not imagine myself being a dentist for another 20, 30 years. It just wasn't in the cards. And but it's all done through hard work that I've done over the years. I'm always given myself, I've given my all to everything. Even my clients now will tell you I'm always available. The easiest guy to reach out to a fault. I answer my phone all the time. I'm super responsive on email and text, whereas literally within a second of getting it, I usually am responding. To a fault. I mean, don't get me wrong. My wife probably doesn't like that I do that at dinner time and stuff, but it's created, a buzz about me and the services I provide, and the quality of customer service I give personally really has taken me to the next level. And, I appreciate, working with the various companies I've worked with. I appreciate, all the people who have listened to the podcast. We're getting, about 1,000 downloads per episode now, which is phenomenal in my mind. I have a Facebook group called Raving Patients, the same name, with about 4,500 dentists in there. That's been growing. Every single day someone seems to add to that. So I've really reached a nice, network of people in the industry, and I'm grateful for it. I have a newsletter called Reputation Matters. But I'm out there, and I will continue to be out there, as I kind of change the focus of my career to really helping practices grow their revenue. A couple other things about me. I help with case acceptance. I help with third party financing. So if you have any questions related to that, please feel free to reach out to me, for assistance with that. Obviously I've mentioned the next phase of my career is putting on some live events. The first one is going to be September 29th and 30th in Delray Beach, Florida. It's called Supercharger Dental Practice. We have some absolutely amazing speakers there. Allison Lecousier, Anissa Holmes, Evan Lazarus, Jessica Nunn, Shireen Washington, Scott Luna, Ryan Vetz. The list goes on and on. There's too many to even name here, but Laura Malley, Laura Nadler, Susan Lekowicz, Travis Campbell, Kara Kelly. I mean, all these people will be focused on the business and marketing side of the practice. It's at the Opal Grand Resorts in Delray Beach, Florida. A beautiful resort right across from the beautiful beaches and ocean, in Delray. If you haven't been there, it's a must go to. 17 speakers, 23 sponsors, 200 plus dentists, over a 2-day event. We're having an illusionist, Eric Wilzig, on Friday evening. We're having a couple receptions, including one at the Silver Ball Museum, which is a old arcade with pinball machines and skee ball and some of the oldest pinball machines dating back to the 1920s. So that's the next thing that I'm going to be doing, but there's a lot more to come. If you follow me on the social media, you'll hear about a lot of these things that we're doing. I want to thank everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed hearing how I became where I am, how I started helping practices with their online reviews. But I really appreciate you listening. I want to thank all the sponsors, Dental Intelligence, the Doc Sites, and Cloud Dentistry for their support, their ability for me to kind of do this on a weekly basis. It's amazing that we've had 5 full seasons of episodes. We're moving into season 6. This is the first episode of season 6, which is incredible in my mind that I've been able to sustain. I was worried in the very beginning when I launched the podcast that I wouldn't even have enough guests or enough topics to talk about, and that very quickly changed. And like I said, we're going into season 6 now. But thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. If you like this episode, please share it. Please let your colleagues know. Please subscribe to the episode to get this. We come out Fridays at 5 a.m. So keep an eye on that. And I really appreciate everybody's attention. And I wanted to thank everybody again. And we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.